We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for my hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
India's Narendra Modi once said that we must make nation building a people's project. A very good day to you and welcome to Building the Nation on Global TV, Star Times Channel 276. My name is Kemi Asheku, and today on Building the Nation, there's a whole lot to look forward to as always. We need to build this nation in such a way that our children and those yet unborn will be more than grateful for what we have done for them. In any case, today on Building the Nation, we'll be looking at saving Nigeria from drug and substance abuse. And that's our focus on Building the Nation this beautiful day, and I hope you keep it locked down with us. We'll take a quick break, and when we do come back, we'll be meeting our guest on Building the Nation for today. Stay with us.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for my hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
My guest on Building the Nation today is Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Dr. Dokun Adedeji has been a medical doctor since 1983, and if you count down, that is about 39 years or 40 years this year practicing as a medical doctor. However, in the course of being a doctor, he's moved on to a whole lot of other things, especially giving back to the society. He is a member of the special committee to the chairman of the NDLEA, and of course, you know that has to do with drugs. Welcome, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, and it's good to have you right here in the studio.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And thank you for coming at such a short notice.
Always my pleasure, you bet.
Doctor, in time past, when we talk about drug abuse or substance abuse in Nigeria, it seems like it had to be something for the rich. People who could afford the very expensive drugs, talk about cocaine, heroin, and a host of other hard drugs. But today, we seem to be living in a world where cannabis seems to be an acceptable substance to use, especially amongst our youth. For someone like you, who has been at the forefront of fighting drug abuse in the last 30 years and counting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This trajectory, with all that fight, and we still find ourselves here, what are we doing right, or what did we do wrong?
To be quite honest with you, I think in the initial we took it for granted, like the normal Nigerian characteristic way of facing issues. We would deflect responsibility. Oh no, it doesn't happen here. You know, until 2013, Nigeria did not believe that we were more than a transit nation. We thought we were just a transit nation. So enough rigor.
Transit nation meaning moving the drugs
moving the drug from
here
here,
to
just like
there.
a point where people moved around and then move it out of here. Until 2013, when the NDLA found out that we were a user nation. Even at the time that they found that we were a user nation, it was obvious that some bit of manufacturing of various varieties of drugs has started. But nobody in Nigeria, we really don't like to face the response. But I must commend General Marwa. His calm is just at the opportune time that Nigerians should now wake up to the reality of what we face. And the reality is not pretty. It's very bad. In the sense that you name catalog of drugs, yes. But today, there are so many varieties, people concocting their own substances for use, and even things that you never thought could be used as substances of abuse have become substances of abuse.
Okay, let me take you through that.
Yeah.
Things that we never thought could be substances of abuse.
Yes.
For example?
Petrol.
Oh, gracious goodness.
Methylated spirit. Glue. Rubber.
What is you're a doctor, so we're talking about understanding the physiology of what these things do, right? What does that do?
Well, you know, the thing is, by experimenting with things, people find a different benefit that was not intended. Even pharmaceutical preparations in hospitals that are prescribed, people have found use for them in a different manner, different from the benefits that we're supposed to get. Absolutely. It's the same that has happened with some of these substances. Maybe somebody sits down and then, like alcohol, you know, anything that has alcohol as its base is likely to have that kind of same effect of euphoria and also of depression and all that. So it's the same thing, like methylated spirit, when they inhale it, just like they inhale, you know, even sanitizer, the hand sanitizer that was being used during the COVID-19, it became a substance of abuse because people could not go out. So they could put in a handkerchief or rub it and then spray the handkerchief and then be inhaling it. So I mean, you can imagine people sitting down and then just preparing their own substances as long as it takes them a bit, and they say it makes them feel high. Now,
this is a bit scary, but let me quickly take you through what you said, that until 2013, we didn't realize that we were more of a user nation than a transit nation. What happened at that time? That's my first question. Then my second question will be, 2013 seems to be the period where we had a lot of a spike in our internal in the degradation of the security challenges that we have in the nation, right? There seems to have been a serious spike at that time. It was growing, you know, from the kidnap of the different students in the schools and all of that. But so I'm trying to look for a nexus between that, realizing that we have become a user nation, you know, not a transit nation, to the spike in the criminalities that we see and all of that. So I don't know if you can help us find a middle ground.
You know, I'm sure what happened in about that 2013 was the realization that interdiction had become very significant. That is, stopping people from taking out the drugs, and when they can't take it out, the use will be domesticated. So it then followed that people then found out from what you said, when you then see all kinds of manners of things, then you say, what the heck is happening here? And then the relationship was created that, oh, it means that this thing is not, because people are now using the dealers could no more take them out, or some of the brands no more use the dealers, and so the things were being used by people who were supposed to be selling them. And the moment a dealer begins to use, there's going to be a breakdown because he can't contain it. And then that's the way I think but some of us had known, in the sense that because we were going to the streets, we were going to the drug joints where we were talking to these people. So we saw the proliferation. And if, for instance, you went to a place that you were before, and then maybe you just had a shanty, and you come back in 3 months, and then you see that it's been broken into 3-4 different shanties, then you know that there's a spike, there's a growth. So we began to see that, and then so some of us raised the alarm. I remember I raised the alarm with a gentleman, I don't want to be specific now. We had a conference in Abuja and he was bragging that we were a transit. I said, no, don't say that anymore, that this was until then they themselves came out to say we have become a user nation. But along the line from what we have seen now, in the time of Jeremiah, we found that at least there are about 30 to 35 laboratories in Nigeria where they manufacture crystal methamphetamine, which they call ice on the street. So it's a progress. You know, the thing that people don't understand about the drug is a lucrative business. It brings a lot of money for little. And because before, the risks were minimal until now that it became difficult for you to do. And that's why you see all ways in which they transport these things. So you will find that, and Nigeria being a coastal nation, Lagos, Port Harcourt being coastal areas, ships will come and then they become like tourist attraction, like Lagos being the center of almost Nigeria. And then so you can find that streaming of drugs in the nation. And that's why when you look at the statistics, it shows in the statistics.
You know, for a moment, I'm almost, I don't know whether to call it depressed, because here is the reality staring us in the face. But then again, for you who has fought drug abuse for more than 3 decades, right, the position we find ourselves in right now, what role do parents, you know, schools, and, you know, those who matter, what role are they supposed to play to ensure that we protect the children, you know, or the young people, the adolescents especially, from getting involved in this?
Let me give you a genesis. I think the statistics that was produced, the report that was produced by the UNODC in 2018 became an eye-opening thing, in the sense that people used to think that drug is for maybe a bit of rich people and a bit of downtrodden people who don't have something to do. But when the statistics came and we saw the global prevalence rate of use was 5.6%, Nigeria's own was 14.4%, which translated at that time about 14 million Nigerians who had used drug in the previous year. And by the next 2 years, it had gone to about 25 million. And then people began to say, and then the age range, you know, the survey was between 15 and 64 years old. And then they found that the preponderance of use was between 25 and 39.
Wow.
And when you look at that, that is an economic and productive sector of any nation.
Absolutely.
And so everybody say, hey, what's going on here? And then so we now began to take, but I'm so glad that this year's theme is beginning to raise the mask off the user. That the user is not a criminal.
The user is a victim.
Is a victim. Is also one of us. Is either a husband, a wife, or a daughter,
or a son.
Or a son. So when we begin to now, that's going to shift our focus, coming to what you said about getting involved. That's now basically going to shift our focus of involvement, because we don't then say, the best they do, NGLA should jail them, the court should send them to, no. These are victims, and anyone could use drugs from the way it is now. And so the way to look at it is, as you said, the primary area of concern is the family, which means parents need to be parents again. Parents have abdicated their responsibility because of economic needs. I understand. People need to work, they need to make money. But hey, what's the basis of making money if you lose your children? There is too much of dissonance between what children get at home and what they see outside, or even what they see in their parents. I've been in places where I spoke and people say to me, what do you want me to do? My father uses, or my father sells. So what then are you expecting the little child to do?
Oh, wow.
And when it's so available, it's so made cheap and affordable, what do you expect? So that
when you say made cheap and affordable, what we used to understand about drugs was it will cost you an arm and a tooth.
It depends.
So when you say cheap and affordable, what are you talking about?
Okay, if for instance you go to the joint, let me start with the alcoholic drinks, the one they put in sachet. You can get it for 20 naira. That's cheap. You can get a variety of weed, cannabis, for 50 naira, 100 naira. You can get something like skunk. Skunk used to be a bit more expensive, maybe about 1,000, 1,500. But now, because of many more people using, they then, how do I say it? They add some other things to reduce the potency, and then they still call it skunk. And people will buy because they need to buy. How much do you need to pay to get methylated spirit? Or how much do you need to buy petrol? I mean, so you can then begin to imagine that it depends on the range of use. If the person who uses cocaine or heroin does not have He needs to use something to step down to fill in the gaps before, so he can use a variety of other things. And there are a lot of things that people are concocting to use. Let me give you an example of naturally occurring substances that people use. There's something called zakami. People in the north will understand what it is, a seed. The NDL is analyzing it right now to know the psychoactive components of it. And there's something in the southwest they call gigemu. Gigemu is a naturally occurring plant that people use. So when you begin to look at those things, and you look, when people go to pit latrine early in the morning to inhale it, there's no cost to that. Or you go to a gutter that has not flowed for a long time, you pack the refuse, you put fire to it, and you stand around and they inhale it. There's no cost to it.
You know, Dr. Adedeji, you really are taking me down a very scary line. But let me just quickly tell people, you're watching Building the Nation on Global TV. We're at Star Times, channel 276. And don't worry, we have taken a look at the backgrounds. We will build the nation by saving Nigerians from substance abuse, but we'll take a quick break. And when we do come back, we'll start looking at ways we can, intervene with regards to this challenge. Do stay with us.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for my hope and prayer is that Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Welcome back. You're watching Building the Nation on Global TV, Star Times channel 276. My name is Kemi Ashik, and I have been speaking with Dr. Dokun Adedeji, a medical doctor of about 40 years, and also a man who's extremely passionate about prevention of drug and substance abuse, and also rehabilitating those who have gotten involved in drug and substance abuse, because as is said in the theme for this year by the United Nations, they are actually victims, and so we need to avoid the stigmatizing them and other challenges that come with being victims of drug abuse. We have spoken quite a bit, and I will confess to you, at some point I was feeling despondent because I looked at it that is there really a way out of these things? It's almost as if there is no control. However, having dealt with this for 3 decades and counting, I'm sure there's a ray of hope at the end of the tunnel. Dr. Dokun Adedeji will take us through that. Doctor, is there a ray of hope?
Oh, of course there is. I mean, that's what I'd like us to take away from that. We need to lay the basis of the challenge we have. But the way we start is increase awareness, which is one of the things you're doing. And I've said it to the media, it is not enough to sensationalize. It's so important that we even ourselves understand the challenge and get the facts and not the stories, and then present to people so that people can make informed choices.
Okay. Let's look at the challenge.
Yeah.
Let's look at the facts.
Yes.
And let's look at the informed choices.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So the media must be. You see, when we were growing up in this world, there used to be science desk in newspapers. What happened to them? We must resuscitate so that people can look.
But the people still read papers.
No, they do. I mean, there should be people manning it, and those people should go out and ferret out the facts. I've challenged many media people. Let me take you to the joints. You see that these are real people. They're educated. They're very good people. They're decent. But they took a wrong turn, and there they are. So we need to get them out of the morass. It's not just to stigmatize or to discriminate against them. People that have gone through our program, some of them are doctors today, some of them are pilots, some of them are engineers. People that are given up on. So there is hope. That's about awareness. The awareness also must ring from the schools, ring from the churches and the mosques. You know, I said it today that the religious organization, they see a lot more people at the time than any other organization. The pastors must know about this and not just the spiritual and then be telling people deliverance. No, what are the facts? And churches today must begin to delve into families. Too many families are discordant and nobody speaks to it.
What about the mosques?
And the mosque, that's what I mean religious, I'm talking about as a Christian. So if the same thing applies to the mosque, so that people begin to talk about value system and about homes, about keeping our home and being observant of our children. Many people don't know their children. Many people just pay school fees. They've never been to PTA before. They don't even know the courses their children are good at to read. They then tell them to read courses because of so people. But I keep telling them, it's not what you read that makes you. It is the quality that you raise out of what you have read. And that's the difference we must make to our children. Let them be who they are. And let children be able to discuss. Parents cannot take decisions on behalf of their children without involving the children. If you don't, you are creating a rebellion. And they can't. There are many children who can't talk to their parents. Why should that be? And they talk to outsiders who misguide them. So those are the basis of where to go. When we now go to offices, institutions, for instance, you should stop expelling the students as the first line of action. Get them help. Understand the process. I'm not saying your rehabilitation center, send them to where they can get help. Many have come to us like that. We give them certification, they return, they complete their courses. Today they are doing good. So why derail their ambition because of a little mistake? They can make the errors. You eat with your friend, you know what is in the food. You drink his drink, you don't know what he has put in it. So you are tested positive. That should not be enough. In the office, which office has a workplace policy on substance use? We must. And when the offices now see that, you send them for treatment, they come back, put them in their job, let them continue their job. The moment you then put them back, you are stigmatizing them. And you are discriminating against them and say they can't do well. That's not fair. So it then comes again now to government. Government cannot by fiat say, hey, we want to do away with stigmatization or do tokenism. Oh, these 3 people are survivors, put them in positions. No. We must be considered, we must know and absorb them in reality. Above all, what it means is there must be love, empathy, and compassion. That's what they need.
Okay, so if we take out these, if we take out what's this, the stigmatization and all of that, especially of the victims, how then do we handle the people who are actually distributing these things to these?
You see, when we do that and help people and raise the level of awareness, there'll be less demand. People, I mean, the supply will begin to reduce because the demand is no more there.
Absolutely.
And then interdiction can be increased, and then we can get those people. And then the other way, like it's done in our country, can we create another venue for work for those people who grow marijuana? Can we encourage the farmers to grow something of economic benefit and subsidize so that they don't get that money they're getting from drugs? Afghanistan did it many years ago, so we can do it.
Okay, now it is said that I'm sorry, this has really blown me away, so I'm a bit picky, right? But it is said that rather in some countries, for example, right, the death penalty is still there for traffickers and those who are involved in drugs, right? So the question now will be, Nigeria, I think at some point abolished the death penalty and all that, but yes, but the death penalty ought to be, well, punishment, right, is supposed to be a deterrent. It's not so that you test the law, right? So considering the amount of drugs that the NDLEA, for example, has seized in the last 9 months, I saw about over 6 million kilograms of drugs and all of that. Shouldn't there be a more stringent form of punishment?
No. You see, for me, I'm one person, I don't believe in draconian punishment, because after a while it becomes unresponsive to what you want. We kill him for armed robbery. Has it stopped armed robbery?
Not at all.
Death penalty is not really a deterrent.
Okay, Doctor, I understand that we have to wrap this up now, but before we go, I know that you will have a few words to perhaps parents whose children are abusing substance. You probably will also have some words for, those family members and all of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I just want to appeal to parents. I know it's not a palatable thing to say my son using drugs, but they are children. If somebody is hypertensive, you don't throw him out. If somebody is diabetic, you don't throw him out. The same thing is a chronic issue, like any of those public health issues. So let us apply wisdom. Let's love our children. Let's try and help them. We can't throw them away. When we help them and they see that this love is true, I gave the example of the prodigal son. That's what these kids are.
So if a parent knows that their child is abusing
Let them
substance right
find
now,
help.
how do they find help?
Because, there's a toll-free line of the NDLEA that is now available. They can go there, they can call.
Okay.
If they call, they can be referred.
Okay.
And then there are also some centers where they can send their people. And then it's not just sending them, it's just also encompassing with love.
Many thanks to you, Dr. Dokumo
My pleasure.
Adedeji. Thank you so much for
My
being
pleasure.
a part of Building the Nation today. We, on Building the Nation today, looked at saving Nigeria from substance abuse. And it's been, for me, a very touchy subject, especially because I see quite a few young people who have been derailed by this unfortunate incident in their lives. But as Dr. Dokumo Adedeji said, they are victims, and we should not stigmatize them. That's our package today on Building the Nation. We look forward to hosting you sometime soon. When next year in Abuja, we hope that you'll give us some more time.
I'll be delighted to do that.
Thank you very much once again, and that's our package on Building the Nation today.